Hello and welcome to Your Hometown Solutions. I'm your host, Jean Newell with Waterview Realty. And we have some exciting guests in the studio with me today, and we talk about everything related to family, finance, home, garden, garage, anything you would like. And we're going to be specializing in roofing today, so get your pencil, get your paper. We're going to be talking about roofing problems and storm problems. And in the studios, let me introduce our two co-hosts, Carolyn Wolf with Certified Mortgage Planners. Welcome again, Carolyn, to the studios.
Glad to be back, Jean.
Give us your I started to say your Certified Mortgage Planners number, but that's not it. Your MLS and MLS number. So
yes.
You are appropriate and you are within legal
guidelines. My license. Yes. Carolyn Wolf at Certified Mortgage. My NMLS number is 268538.
And while you're talking, Carolyn, give out your contact information so people can write that down, because we're going to show how these roofing companies and the storms and different things can relate to you getting a mortgage. So you might want to write down Carolyn's contact information on that as well.
All right. Thank you, Jean. Again, it's Carolyn Wolf at Certified Mortgage Planners. The best way to reach me is my cell phone at 321-795-9103 or our website at www.floridalendingpro.com.
Oh, you are the lending pro.
Yes. Yes, I am.
I like that. Also in the studios is my co-host, Jonathan Lack with Lack & Lack Chartered Real Estate Attorneys. And he also is the owner of Waterview Realty and owns Waterview Title. Anything else that you own that we need to know about, John?
Well, no, that's it for now.
Are you a Tupperware lady or anything like that?
Well, there is the Hardest Hit program, but I don't want to get us off track.
We'll talk about that maybe in the next show. Thank you very much. And in the studios with me, we have two more guests. It's getting a little crowded here in the studios. Yes. I think we could fit one more in, but that's about it. We have some exciting guests, and it's Sean Gallagher and John Miller, and they're storm damage specialists and storm chasers, as they say, with Alcon. Welcome, gentlemen, to the studios.
Thanks, Gene. Appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.
There you go, John. Sean, do you want to start off and tell us a little bit about what Alcon is all about and how you help people with damaged properties?
Well, every year the spring thunderstorms and the fall thunderstorms and hurricane season brings damage to Floridians, and we help them by discovering damage that's occurred to their roofs and the exteriors of their homes and helping them navigate the claims process successfully so that their insurance policy might cover the cost or the bulk of the cost of that.
So it's a little bit different than just calling a roofing company. You really gear into or focus on storm damage first.
Yes, that's right.
Okay.
Our skill set is inspection discovery to recognize what triggers coverage on most policies.
Okay.
So we're a lot different. We're expert inspectors with some insurance skills.
I like that.
This is John Lack, and my question when you just brought that up regarding the insurance and what's covered, obviously if there's a storm and it comes through and it knocks off my roof, I know I'll have my insurance claim. But are there any experiences you've had where somebody was like, wow, my insurance will pay for that?
Yeah, that's daily almost. They're always surprised. People think their older roofs are excluded from full coverage, which is not the truth. They're usually covered and they usually qualify more easily. And then say on these nice laminate shingles that most of us have, 30-year type shingles, architectural dimensional, if the laminates blow off, that can qualify you for replacement if it's at the right age and it's not considered repairable due to brittleness. So we get that a lot. And people think, oh, I have hail all the time. Can that damage me? The larger hail can.
Now, would that, in a named storm, I know we get stuck with the named storm deductible, the 2% or whatnot, and in some instances that may be your cost anyway, so you end up with that dilemma of do I file an insurance claim or just pay the darn deductible out of my pocket? But are there times when there's an insurance claim that's not from a named storm?
Yeah, that's a good example. January 22nd, we had high winds in the area, if you remember, and closer to 100 miles an hour. We snapped pictures with our phones on the Weather Channel that evening, and we've gotten some claims in North Merritt Island approved for wind damage with a lower deductible because of that unnamed storm when all other perils deductible kicks in.
Okay, so then you're down to your regular deductible.
$1,000, $2,500 sometimes, oftentimes.
And for those of you, I'd like to point out to everybody in our listening audience, we are based in Brevard County, Florida. So when Sean says here in Merritt Island, that is one of our nicer areas in Brevard County, but we're broadcast on the internet throughout the world. So this would apply. Most of what we're discussing is mostly Florida, or would this apply in other states as well? We like to educate our audience, not just.
A lot of it's universal, Jonathan. These same types of rules apply in all parts. In fact, people in Australia do the same thing with small differences.
All right, so have you had to replace any roofs in Australia?
I was thinking about going there. I was going to find a reason why I needed to, and then ask for some time off to go do that. Yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah. So, John, next time Sean says he's going to Outback, he doesn't mean lunch.
Yeah, I was thinking of one of the storms maybe in the Caribbean would sounds good.
I don't know, when they say I have a storm in Melbourne, you might be going to Australia just for that, right?
That's right. So we've got two Melbournes, don't we?
That's right. So you always say you're storm chasers. So do you cover other areas besides Brevard County?
Yeah, good question. We do. We cover actually the entire state of Florida. Our licenses are statewide, so we do cover everywhere from South Florida up to North Florida, the Panhandle. So wherever there's a natural disaster, be it a hailstorm or a wind event, we will go to that area and work that location.
So that was John Miller you were listening to. You won't know who you're listening to at home. We have so many players here in the studio, so we'll try to keep introducing ourselves. Maybe, Carolyn, they'll get us confused too. 2 women, 3 men. So tell us a little bit about the difference between what your company does, Alron. And by the way, give out your information right now before we forget that. How can they get in touch with you?
Alron Construction can be reached at this phone number, 321-626-9596. Wynn will answer your call, tell her what's on your mind, and she'll make an appointment for one of us guys to come out and see you and address your concerns. Online, we're at alronconstruction.com.
Do you want to give out an email?
Here's a good email, roofninjatribe@gmail, roofninjatrib@gmail.com.
That's why I wanted you to give it out. I love that. Roof Ninja Tribe. That really tells it everything. Well, some of the differences, I think people think, well, if I have damage to if I need a new roof and mine's just getting old, do they call you to take a look at it, or is it only from having a storm involved that they need to call you?
It's both ways. Sometimes they want us to take a look at it, and we will to see if coverage could have been could trigger coverage. So if I go on the roof looking at a different sort of complaint, and I know by historical weather maps that we subscribe to that neighborhood sustained damage previously, I'll go look and see how that house fared. Mm-hmm. And we may come down with photos and show the owner, you have creased shingles, you have missing shingles, you have hail-struck shingles, and this qualifies you as hail damaged.
Is there a time frame for something like that?
5 years from the date of loss.
5 years.
Wow,
Governor Christ extended that. It used to be shorter. I'm not sure what it was, but now it's 5 years, but we lose weathering clues that are useful in the investigation for the adjuster to see and be convinced. So it's better to claim quickly, and it's a requirement of your policy that as soon as you have knowledge that there could be a loss, you're supposed to claim. You're not supposed to do it at your convenience.
Okay.
You're supposed to claim immediately.
But if in your sample, we had a windstorm issue 2 years ago, and now I'm going to sell my house, and I get a roofer up there, or I go up there myself and say, ooh, there's an issue, or I give you a call and you come out and do an inspection and say, hey, look, I see some stuff. And of course, I have not been on my roof personally, so there could be missing shingles at the top corner that I would know nothing about. So you might be able to go back and say, hey, look, John, you've got some damage here, and we may be able to trace this back to a storm 2 years ago, and you might be able to make a claim.
Yep, said perfectly. That's exactly what we do. We use historical weather data websites, and we may know your neighborhood and kind of already be familiar with it. Mm-hmm. So that's precisely what we do. We look for a date that would correspond with that.
All right, well, that's excellent.
This is John speaking, and I've actually got a good example of that. Just recently, we had a property in Titusville that the date of loss for the hailstorm was back in 2012. So it was actually coming up on the 5-year date. They called us for a leak. We got on the roof. We had known because we had actually, back in 2013, we had found damage on the properties adjacent to this property from the hailstorm. And we got on the roof, and they did have hail damage. It was 4 years and 10 months. So it was approaching that 5-year mark.
Wow.
We called the insurance company, had them come out. We thought the insurance company may drag out the process, give us a little bit of a tough time because of the length, the time from the storm. It actually went successful, and we were able to get them new roofs for the cost of their deductible. So
Wow.
it worked great.
That's fabulous information. I hope our
Very
audience
good.
out there appreciates that.
Well, I wanted to bring something about real estate. We were talking about this before the show. Carolyn, let's give them a scenario and let's see how John and Sean could answer this question. So, and Jonathan Lack, you speak up on this as well. So we have a home under contract. Mm-hmm. We have a 45-day closing. And as we're approaching the closing, here comes a storm and it takes off the roof. Now, what do we do? Do you want to address that, Sean and John, as far as should they call you and get you involved now, or should the homeowner call you, or the new buyer, or the mortgage company? We don't know what to do at this point.
Okay, my recommendation is that anytime there's a loss, you should have that contractor expert out to look at it, whether it's a burst pipe or whether it's a roof loss, and then have him guide the adjuster. He doesn't have to be an insurance expert contractor, but that's even better. So should you have me out after a roof loss as you're going into a closing? I think you should. Sometimes I can help. Sometimes I'm not going to be able to meet your 45-day closing. That would be
Right.
something for you guys to tell me. Mm-hmm. But there's a certain type of contract where the current owner's benefits under this policy, if the roof gets fully funded through insurance, can be transferred to the new buyer. Mm-hmm. And but I need experts like you guys to tell me how that would work.
Right.
Well, I can chime in a little bit on the contract part of it, but to be honest, where I find the biggest hitches, and therefore going to drop this in Carolyn's lap, is with the lenders. In other words, I know contractually, if this was a cash deal, as an attorney, I know exactly how I'd handle it, and it would be a non-issue. But unfortunately, if it's a loan involved, then the bank gets involved, and then you end up with the issue of, will the bank fund the loan prior to putting on the new roof, or will the assignment of proceeds, will you have to do the new roof before we close? And Carolyn, I don't know if you can.
Yeah, that's a good scenario, and there's a few different options that you could do, and it's going to depend on the cost of the roof, the damage of the roof, the type of financing that the borrowers are doing. So again, it could be that it needs to be done prior to. We could also do what's called an escrow holdback, where as long as it's within X amount of dollars and we know that that's what it's going to cost, we would close on that transaction, knowing that Alron, Sean, and John would be taking care of the roof after we close, and then they get paid with the proceeds once it is completed. Or we can flip the current product that they're doing into a product which allows for repairs to be financed into the loan. Then we would close, and then they would step in and do
So money
the roof.
would be held in escrow to pay for the roof.
Exactly.
Is that what you're saying?
So there's a few options, and it could be an option where we just need to make sure that the roof gets repaired. But there are certain scenarios that
So it's different. It's
could
the
happen.
different lending products, which is, again,
And
we've talked
different
in other
scenario.
shows why you want to go to a mortgage broker, because
Exactly.
you know which are the different products which might enable us to close this
Right.
transaction. Whereas if you're a straight up bank loan, sorry, got to have a new roof. Oh,
Right.
no money. Oh, well.
You have that exactly right, John, because some lenders won't do an escrow holdback, and some lenders do not have those products that would allow to have the repairs done as part of the loan.
Here's some questions that I think people are always asking us, and one of them is, if I turn in a claim, will my insurance company cancel me?
Good question, Gene. We get that nearly every day. Act of God claims are the type of claim where you have no fault. It's not like letting the bathtub overflow and ruin your house and the apartment below you. So when a thunderstorm or straight line winds or a hurricane moves over you, since it's not your fault, insurance isn't allowed to penalize you. They're not allowed to drop you. It's against the law. Now, some carriers in the past felt like they experienced heavy exposure in our state, and they left the state or threatened to lose the state. So you may be non-renewed because they're not here anymore, but being dropped for making a claim is not a retaliatory move that the insurance company is allowed to do.
How about John Miller? Maybe you can answer this question that we hear a lot too. My neighbor's rates went down after they received a new roof. How is that possible?
That's a good question, Gene. Well, let me back up there. Another big thing that we get question is, can the insurance company raise my rates after a storm? or from filing a claim. The same applies. An act of God type situation, a hailstorm or a hurricane, insurance companies are not allowed to raise your rates directly. What can happen is if an insurance company experiences a large exposure of claims in a certain area, they are allowed to raise the rates 3, 4, 5% for everybody in that region. So they cannot, even the person that didn't get affected by the storm that's maybe further in coast, they're going to see that same raise in their premium, 3 or 4 or 5%, whatever's determined. So how they actually get a decrease in their premium is once we put on the new roof and the roof is brought up to current building code, the premiums can actually go down because the insurance companies actually view the roof as a lower risk now. A newer roof costs less money to insure now. So that is how we offer some contractors actually offer free wind mitigation inspections after the roof is completed, which shows the roof has been brought up to current building code. That is then supplied to the insurance company. They then can offer credits for that new roof being installed.
And you offer the roof mitigation as well?
Correct, we do. Alcon does that, correct.
What do you think a lot of people do? They make the biggest mistake when there's a storm that comes through. Is it appropriate to call the insurance company first, or should they call you first?
I'll take that one.
And that's Sean Gallagher.
Jean, I always want us to be a part of that initial inspection if it's possible, so that the adjuster who's in a big hurry with a huge file load isn't missing details. But sometimes there's not enough contractors to go around to walk with the adjuster to point out all the damage. So ideally, if you can wait a week or two, then have the contractor, have Alcon with your adjuster. Now, if you have a tree on your house and it's got to be removed and there's a life safety issue, do what you need to do to mitigate further damages. And we can always backtrack. But I'm a believer that there's less wreckage, less ripples down the road when we can walk and get the scope of work figured out correctly the first time. Mm-hmm. And adjusters look at us like we're helping them do their job when we point stuff out. Hey, the fascia. Hey, the screen enclosure. Look at the windows over here. The roof and these accessories and the mailbox. When we point all this out, it helps speed his job up, and we end up doing a lot of his file work. So some people are afraid to have the two of us out there together. We try to be a friend to the adjuster.
And so you really take care of more than just a roof. All the surrounding things like gutters and windows and so forth, you can also take care of for them.
Yeah, we like for it to be a real complete claim. Mm-hmm. A roof with new gutters is a beautiful roof. I look better than the neighboring one who just reset his gutters when the contractor does that. If there's a leak onto the inside from wind-driven rains or there's a hole in the roof, then we'll repair the ceiling, the walls, the flooring. We do lots of stuff as a general contractor in the restoration world.
So you're really there to sell all the claim to the claim adjuster who may or may not understand all the scope of things. So it's good to have you out there ahead of time, because most roofing companies, just straight roofing companies, they just come in and do the roof and they'll send you whatever information you need, but they're really not involved that much with the insurance adjusters. Is that correct?
That's right. Okay. I'll let you want any
Sure.
more of that?
Sure. Come on, John Miller.
Yeah, that's a good point. There's several reasons why, a restoration contractor like Alcon makes sense. I can just give a couple examples. During the roofing process, the roofers are tearing off the roof. Let's say they run into some bad plywood, for example. That's an unforeseen condition. That's something that we can't predict. During our inspection, we may be walking across the roof and feel a soft spot, but we can't predict that there's going to be 3, 4, 5, or possibly 10 sheets of bad plywood. Oftentimes in a re-roof, that expense, the $40 or $50 or $60 a sheet that the contractor charges, that actually ends up getting passed on to the homeowner. The great thing with Alcon and a restoration contractor is we will document that damaged plywood, and we will actually supplement the insurance company. We have ways and documentation ways and codes that we use to put the insurance company on hook for that bad plywood, so the cost is not being passed on to the homeowner. Our agreement specifically states in bold and underlined that the that Alcon will complete the scope of work, the insurance scope of work, for the cost of your deductible. So that is your only out-of-pocket cost as the homeowner, and we guarantee that, and it's in our contract. So if we run across unforeseen conditions, bad plywood, we have the expertise to be able to pass that cost on to the insurance company and not the homeowner that your typical roofer may do.
Right, and when an insurance adjuster comes out, he's going to kind of ballpark it, and it may or may not cover what he comes out, the final total, but you're going to be more of an expert at being able to help him identify some of those claims.
Correct. Yeah. So we've already had time on the roof and walking around the home prior during our inspection. We've got a lot more hours and a lot more invested in the property and the homeowner's claims. So the insurance adjuster, he's been stacked up with 10 or 15 files that he's going to throughout that day inspecting. So he's not taking the time to really look in detail and discover all the damages. So it's great to have a restoration contractor involved, get them out to do their couple hour, 30-minute inspection, whatever it may be, document all the damages properly, have some good photo documentation ready for the adjuster when he comes out, have an estimate ready for him. And that way, then at the point when the adjuster comes out, it's more of a checklist that you guys are going through now to guide through instead of trying to discover the damage at that point when the adjuster comes for his inspection.
I think, Carolyn, you had a question for them.
Yeah, thank you, Jean. I was curious. One of the good questions is you already have I've already patched my roof. Could I still qualify for full replacement through an insurance claim if it was already patched?
Yeah, a lot of folks mitigated their lost shingles after the storm. They had a handyman, tack them back up there, and now they want to know, hey, do I qualify for full replacement because I see my neighbors getting full re-roofs? Mm-hmm. Let us go look at it, and we'll see if, based on the age of the roof and some collateral damages that may have occurred when they were feathering those repair shingles, if it caused more damage, and then we can take that case to the adjuster and say, look, the homeowner did the right thing, mitigated further damage with the help of this handyman, but because it doesn't match, we want to get a full re-roof. We have a matching statute in Florida, and we noticed that it creased the shingles around the repair spot, so we don't want to create more damage in trying to do a good thing. So for that reason, we deem the roof as unrepairable and brittle. So we're asking for a full re-roof. And so I would rather people not get the handyman to patch it if they can. I'd rather have them just tarp it. Mm-hmm. But if they do get that guy to do a repair, we can go and see if they can still have that full re-roof. Thanks for that question, Carolyn.
Yeah, thank you, Sean.
And I know right after a storm, if there's safety issues, you want the homeowner to take care of that. Get the tarp on the roof if it's leaking and so forth, because as fast as you can get there, you're going to get there, but it might not be the next day. And the same with the adjuster. So they need to keep in mind safety first, whatever they need to do. What other tips could you tell someone after a storm they need to do while they're waiting for the adjuster and waiting for your advice?
I think you said it brilliantly. You know how when a storm moves through, it might be clear for a day or two? You don't need to do anything then if you have someone on the way. So don't get up there yourself if you're not able to. But if someone can get up there and use felt products or roofing products or tarps with sandbags, it's better to attach a tarp with a sandbag and use gravity and strings to hold it down, ropes. If you have to tack it down, go ahead and tack it down. But I don't have a lot of advice with that. Just try to stop the water. Some people get in their attic and put pans under where the water might be dripping if they have rain coming in. And it's an obligation of the policy to mitigate damages. And like you said, life safety is real important, so do what it takes.
Mm-hmm. Have you got some information on different types of roofing and how you advise people on maybe where they live, closer to the coast, what kinds of roofs they need as far as dimensional shingles or metal roofs or any other kinds of information on roofing in general, product-wise?
Since we're usually dealing with claims, just like with your vehicle, you're entitled to like, kind, and quality, which means if I have an architectural dimensional shingle, I'm entitled to an architectural dimensional shingle. I'm not entitled to an automatic metal upgrade. Mm-hmm. I'm only a fan of certain metal roofs, and they happen to be the more expensive metal roofs that the fasteners are concealed, like the standing seams. Exposed fastener metal roofs don't thrill me because they require maintenance. But a good shingle roof is a concealed fastener roof. They're hidden by the shingle above in lap style, what we call shingle style. So I'm a lover of the architectural dimensional shingle. When folks have 3 tabs, which is the workhorse of the industry, but they're being phased out, Alcon automatically upgrades you to this other shingle because it qualifies for 130 mile an hour wind resistance.
Wow.
With 6 nails per shingle like Florida requires. So I usually advise people to go right back to shingles, even though John and I have done 500,000 feet of concrete and clay tile, which is a lot.
Yeah.
That's 10 acres worth of concrete tile that we've done through Florida. We still think people's better value, unless they want to go into the money, the investment of, I'll tell you where I think we advise people with roof product. These underlayments now are special. These peel and
Let's
sticks.
talk about that, because a lot of people don't realize it's not the shingles that are keeping the rain out.
Yeah.
It's your underlayment.
So those shingles are good, and these other products are good that are your roof covering that aesthetically please you. But some of these underlayments are so fantastic, like these peel and sticks. So we like to recommend to people, if you're going to put a little money somewhere, put it in a nice underlayment under this shingle. That way, if your shingles blow off in the next storm, that underlayment's not. It'll delaminate that plywood before it blows off.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
What do you think of plywood versus a press board? And then I want Jonathan to ask a question. Is there a difference?
Yeah, there is. So in our heads, we think plywood's better, and that OSB, oriented strand board, is not as good. But there's arguments about that. And when press board is handled right, it's a fantastic product. The orientations go in a lot of different ways, whereas the laminations on plywood go, you might have a 5-ply plywood. So if it's done right, it can make a nice roof deck. But for the couple dollars difference, and when I'm doing a roof job, most plywood will replace typically 5 or 10 sheets. That's a lot. Usually it's 1 or 2 sheets. When I go to do that, why would I save a couple dollars on OSB if I can do plywood? Mm-hmm. And some of these older homes around here have good plank board, dimensional boards, 1x6s, 1x12s. So I like plywood better out of prejudice.
Mm-hmm. We only have a couple minutes left. Jonathan, you had a question for them.
Yeah, well, we were talking off air before, and you had alluded to it here with the free inspections, and call us out and we'll check it out. And of course, there's no cost, no obligation. Who would you recommend call? Again, I'm a real estate broker and real estate attorney, but wearing my broker hat and helping people buy and sell homes. So that's the market I work in, and I have people who are going to sell their home, and their home is aging, and we often have on this show recommended sellers get a pre-listing inspection so that they know what's wrong with the property beforehand. I'm not sure if that plays into your situation or if you guys, your inspection is strictly post-storm related, or would we have you out for people selling their home?
So for typical selling their home, they could have us out and we would come out and look. But everyone in this area is post-storm. Right. So everyone in probably our listening area, I'm not sure how that works, is for all of Florida, is eligible for that.
Okay.
John, what do you think? Or Gene, what do you think?
I think, yeah. As far as a seller, we help many clients, many customers that are selling their home that, a lot of people will say after we're done with the process, hey, this actually turned out to be a blessing for us. Our roof was 17 years old. We were looking at replacing it in the next few years. And now for the cost of our deductible, we got to replace that roof. And especially those people that are selling their home, then that just happened to increase the value of their home at that point as well.
That's great information. And if you can give out your contact information so that our listeners can call you for exactly the purpose.
Absolutely. So the best phone number to call is 321-626-9596. When we'll answer the phone, she'll ask you a few questions. She'll schedule Sean or myself or one of our certified inspectors to come out and take a look, and we will give you recommendations.
Well, thank you. You've been listening to John Miller and Sean Gallagher. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us with Alcon Construction, LLC. And they're storm chasers, and they can help you with all your storm damages. Thank you, gentlemen, for joining us today. And thank you, Carolyn Wolf with Certified Mortgage Planners. And again, give out your information, Carolyn.
Thank you, Jean. Real quick, it's 321-795-9103 is the best way.
Good. Thank you so much. And John Lack with Lack & Lack Chartered.
Can be reached at area code 321-953-5115. And also check out our new website for Waterview Realty, which is waterviewre.com.
Thank you, everyone, for listening today. And for further information, you can go to our website at yourhometownsolutions.com. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And thank you, gentlemen, Carolyn, Jonathan. And tune in next week, and we have another exciting guest talking about new construction.